welcome back. So mostly we've been just kind of getting our feet wet with problems where everything's positive. I think I might have done one where there's a minus sign. I'm not sure. Anyway, let's look a little bit more at how to approach it efficiently if you have something that's negative. So this time it's the constant term that's negative. Now I'm going to take the same approach where I'm going to start out filling in what I need for the front end. So to get a 5x squared, I'm going to have to have a 5x and an x. To get a 6, I could possibly have a 6 and a 1 or a 1 and a 6. Those will give me different middle terms. Now, in order to have the 6 be negative, though, I need one of the factors to be positive and one negative. So minus, plus, or, and you'll get a different middle term if the signs are not opposite order. So 5x minus 6 times x plus 1 is going to give you a different middle term than 5x plus 6, x minus 1. And then we'll also have a different middle term if I swap the 1 and the 6. So I could have a minus and a plus, or I could have a plus and a minus 6. And then to get a 6 on the back end, we could also have 2 and 3, with again one being negative and one being positive, or one being positive, the first one being positive and the second one being negative. Now, I don't know, I might get the right answer somewhere up here. So I'm not going to actually take the time to write down all the possibilities first. So I've been so far writing down all the possibilities before we, writing down all the trials, the guesses, before we start our checking, because I want you to get a good feeling for what all the possibilities are. But in practice, that's wildly inefficient, right? So keep track of what you've checked so that you don't double check things more than once and skip things, but you don't actually have to start out by writing them all down. Okay, so I have not written them all down yet because, again, I might get the right thing up here somewhere. So let's just start working these out. So if I were to FOIL this one out, but obviously we've set it up so we'll get the 5x squared and the minus 6. What we're concerned about is the middle term. So let's see, if I FOIL this out, the middle terms, the inner terms rather, are going to give me a minus 6x. The outer terms will give me a plus 5x. Those are going to combine to be a minus x. That's not what I want. Over here, where I have all the same numbers, but with the signs swapped, the signs reversed, now the middle terms will give me a positive 6. The outer terms will give me a negative 5x. And those will combine then to be a positive 1x. And so notice here that when you have all the same numbers, but you just changed which sign is where, you get the same middle term, but with the sign changed. Just pointing that out, because that's going to lead us to a little shortcut. Let's go on to the next line. If I were to FOIL this out, what would I get for the middle term? Well, the inner terms are going to multiply to give me a minus x. The outer terms are going to multiply to give me a 30x. Those are going to combine to give me a 29x, which is not what I want. Going over here, the inner terms will multiply to give me 1x. The outer terms will multiply to give me a negative 30x. Those will combine to give me negative 29x's. So notice again, when I had all the same numbers, but with the plus and minus reversed, I got the same middle term, just with the opposite sign. Now, the reason I'm pointing that out is, for me personally, since I know that, once I do this one and I get a negative 1x, I personally wouldn't bother with this one, checking this one, because I know it's going to give me a 1x, so it's going to give me that 1 coefficient just with the opposite sign. Down here, once I had checked either one of these, so it just depends on what order you wrote things down, if I say I had checked this one and it gave me a negative 29x, say I checked this one and it gave me a 29x, I would not bother to check this one that has all the same stuff but with the opposite signs, because I know it's going to give me a 29 on the x just with the opposite sign. Okay, so that that cuts your work in half. Okay, let's go on to the next line and see if we've got the right answer yet. Here the inner terms will multiply to give me negative 10x. The outer terms will multiply to give me positive 15x. That's going to add up to 5x's, not what I want. And because on this line I've written all the same numbers in the same order, it's just the plus and minus have been reversed, I know that if I were to multiply this out, the terms would combine to give me negative 5x, so there's no point in checking that. All right, we still haven't hit the right answer. And by the way, not all polynomials can be factored, just like not all numbers can be factored. So sometimes you try everything there is and nothing works. That's one of the reasons it's important to make sure you don't accidentally miss a possible factorization, because you might go in circles trying more and more things, not realizing nothing works. Okay, let's see. So we've tried, what have we tried so far? I've got 6 and 1, 1 and 6. Oh, and I see I made a mistake here. Let's go back and fix the mistake. Hopefully you guys spotted it. This is the perils of multitasking. I'm trying to talk to you at the same time I'm writing and thinking math. Yeah, I shouldn't have had a 5 in both spots here, right? That should have been just a 1x. So that probably screwed up my my middle term here. Let's see. What should I have got? Negative, yeah. So this should have been, the inner terms would give me negative 2x. The outer terms would give me 15x. Ah, good thing I noticed that, because that's the one we want, isn't it? And this one would give me a negative 13x. So if I had wanted a negative 13x and gotten plus 13x, I would know to just switch the pluses and minuses. But in fact, it's the 13x we want. So we're done with that one, except for checking it. Okay, so again, we've found the answer. So the multiplication problem that would be equal to this answer is 5x minus 2, x plus 3. But let's go ahead and check that. So this is okay to just write down your answer. So polynomial equals this multiplication problem, this product. I'm going to go off and check though. So if I FOIL this out, 5x times x is 5x squared, as we want, because we set it up that way. And then I have plus 15x minus 2x. I get the minus 6 I want because we chose our guesses carefully to make sure that worked. And then just double checking here, yeah, I get also the correct middle term. Okay, so with that example, let's talk a little bit about how to kind of think about the signs, what you're going to get. When I have, so looking at this first row here, which I probably can't get them both on the screen the way you're seeing them on your paper. Oh yeah, I can, almost. Okay, so if you look at these, this first row and where I want us to kind of look at the sign patterns, notice that if you have a positive constant term, either the constant terms in the parentheses have to both be positive or they have to both be negative. Okay, so if this is positive, in other words, if this has a plus sign, then these two signs have to be the same. Okay, if the sign, again, on the constant term is positive, a plus, then these two signs have to be the same. Now, how do you pick whether that sign should be positive or negative? You look at the constant term. So if I have negatives here, then the inner term, when I multiply, the inner terms are going to give me negative, the outer terms are going to give me a negative, and when I add those up, they're going to add up to a negative. So I wouldn't want negatives if my middle term is positive, nor would I want positives if my middle term is negative. Okay, so if this is positive, then these both need to be positive, and if this one is negative, then these both need to be negative. Okay, so that's once you've decided they're going to be the same sign. Then you can just look at the, so you look at the constant term, decide if you should have the same sign over here. If it is the same sign, then you only have to look at the whether there's a minus or not in the problem at all. If there is, you need minuses. If there's not, you want all pluses. Now, what if that constant term is a negative? Okay, so what if it's a negative? Then your life's a little more difficult. If it's a negative on the constant term, you're going to need to have different signs in your parentheses, because you need a plus with a minus to get a product that's negative. And similarly here, if the sign on the back end on the constant term is negative, then you're going to need different signs in your factorization to get that constant term to come out to be negative. Now, unfortunately, it's looking at the middle term, whether it's negative or positive, doesn't help you decide which should go whether you should have the plus first or the minus first. You just have to check. So like on this one, so on this one, I would have the inner terms, if I was filling out, would give me an x. The outer terms would give me negative 6x. Those would combine to give me negative 5x. That's what I want. So I would keep them. Now the good news is, if you have your signs in the wrong place, as we discussed a minute ago, if you have your signs in the wrong place, you can change the sign of the middle term just by reversing these. So say I had thought that, let's see, can I get these together? No. All right. Well, let's say I was working on this one with a plus in the middle, and I just, kind of guessed that that would be my factorization. As soon as I see that I have the wrong sign on the middle term, all I have to do is swap the plus and minus. So change the plus to a minus, change the minus to a plus, and then I'll have the correct thing. Okay, so when you have different signs, you just take a guess as to which goes where and check and see whether you've got the right answer or not. Okay, so I've got a few problems for you to try now that have sort of a mixture of different plus and minus combinations. I've got, how many do I have? I have 4 for you to try. So it's the approach that I've been showing you, but with some pluses and minuses in there. Okay, so I'm going to stop here, and I'll go over these with you in the next video. Please, 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 please do these on your own before you watch the next video. It's okay if you have trouble with them. Factoring's hard, but you'll learn a lot more by having trouble yourself than by watching me go through them and make it look deceptively easy. Okay, I'll see you then.